They were thrilled with the results and defended the decision enthusiastically in interviews afterward. The public reaction, however, was almost immediate and overwhelmingly negative. Viewers flooded social media with concerned and sometimes harsh comments about how different the sisters looked, and the criticism only intensified as the years went on. The backlash didn't fade quietly. Months and even years after the procedures, fans continued to react with shock whenever new photos or videos surfaced. Some followers expressed genuine sadness rather than mockery, worried that the sisters had gone too far and wondering who around them wasn't stepping in to help. The pressure eventually became so intense that Darcey made her social media accounts private for a period of time. Rare retreat for someone who had built her entire public persona around being open and visible. Fans speculated about which doctors were involved and questioned whether the sisters were receiving the kind of guidance and support they actually needed, rather than simply being enabled to keep going. Despite the criticism, the sisters continued moving forward with their public lives, their business, and their relationships, even as the tone of public conversation around them shifted from admiration to something closer to concern. What had once felt like an aspirational story about two women living boldly on their own terms increasingly felt, to much of the audience, like a cautionary tale about the pressures of fame and the toll those pressures can take. The romantic drama, meanwhile, never slowed down. Darcey's relationship with her Bulgarian partner had been a central storyline of the spin-off from its earliest episodes, and it delivered one dramatic turn after another. The couple got engaged, broke up, reconciled, got engaged again, and split once more, with each cycle playing out in front of an audience that had grown used to expecting exactly this kind of unpredictability from her. By the show's fourth season, Darcey was trying to move on entirely, going on dates arranged by a matchmaker, though none of those connections led anywhere serious. Then, away from the cameras, something surprising happened. In late 2023, Darcey quietly married her longtime partner in a small, private ceremony at their home, with only a handful of guests present. She didn't reveal the marriage to the public right away, choosing instead to confirm it months later and explaining that the date they chose held personal significance tied to her late brother. It seemed for a moment like Darcey had finally found the stability she had spent years searching for on screen. That stability didn't last. Within a few months of the wedding becoming public, Darcey began posting messages online about independence and self-love that many fans interpreted as hints of trouble in the marriage. Her representatives pushed back on split rumors, describing the situation as normal relationship stress rather than a breakup. But the pattern of public uncertainty continued for well over a year, with reconciliation posts followed by cryptic messages that suggested distance, followed again by signs that the couple was still together. For an audience that had followed every step of her love life since 2017, it became difficult to know from one week to the next where things actually stood. Stacey's story followed its own painful path. She had been with her Albanian partner for years, and their relationship had weathered public accusations of infidelity long before the spin-off began. Stacey later opened up about how relocating to a new city and being surrounded by an active nightlife scene had reopened old wounds connected to that history, describing the experience as deeply painful and difficult to process, especially with cameras present. She and her partner eventually agreed to appear on one of the franchise's couples therapy-focused spin-offs, hoping a structured environment might help them repair the relationship. It was during that same stretch of episodes that the sisters' bond as twins became part of the storyline in an unexpected way. Stacey learned that her partner had allegedly spent time with other women during a night out, information that reportedly came to light because Darcey's husband happened to be at the same venue. The situation escalated further when Stacey discovered that Darcey had apparently been encouraging her partner to consider ending the relationship, essentially suggesting he would be better off without her sister. Stacey confronted Darcey about what she felt was an unhealthy level of involvement in her marriage, and the tension between the twins became serious enough that a therapist recommended the entire family pursue counseling together. By the time cameras caught up with them at a later reunion special, both sisters admitted openly that their marriages were struggling and that their relationship with each other had been strained by everything that had happened. As if the romantic and family drama wasn't enough, the twins were also dealing with a much quieter kind of loss. In 2023, after 4 seasons, their spin-off was not brought back for a new season. There was no dramatic announcement or farewell special, simply a quiet absence where a new premiere should have been. Fans slowly pieced together what had happened as month after month passed without any news of a 5th season. And by early 2024, it was clear the show that had made the sisters household names had come to an end. For 2 women who had built so much of their public identity around being on screen since 2017, losing that platform represented far more than the end of a job. It meant losing the structure that so much of their public life had been organized around for years. In the time since the show ended, both sisters have worked to stay relevant and connected to their fan base in other ways. As of the past year or so, Darcey has spoken publicly about being in a better place with Stacey following the fallout from the family drama, describing their bond as one that will always endure even though they clash with each other regularly. The twins relocated together to a new city and have continued focusing on House of 11, which has remained the one constant throughout every other upheaval in their lives. They've been seen together at public events, arriving separately but showing up at the same places, which many fans have taken as a quiet sign that the relationship between them is healing. Darcey's marriage has continued to generate speculation well after the show ended. There have been stretches where she and her husband appeared to have stopped following each other on social media, followed by posts suggesting a full reconciliation, followed again by cryptic captions that fans read as signs of renewed distance. Neither has ever fully clarified the status of their relationship in a lasting way, and the back and forth has become such a familiar pattern that even the most dedicated followers have had trouble keeping track of where things stand at any given moment. Stacey's relationship, by contrast, appears to have found somewhat steadier footing. After the very public airing of infidelity accusations and a stint on a couple's retreat show, she and her partner have continued spending time together, including trips to visit his family overseas. It's not a story free of uncertainty, but compared to the chaos of the previous few years, it looks like something closer to stability. Outside of their romantic lives, the sisters have kept themselves busy. They've released original music together, continued expanding House of 11 into new categories beyond clothing, and remained connected to the broader reality television world even without their own dedicated series. Both have made appearances across other corners of the franchise that made them famous in the first place, keeping their names in front of audiences even as their flagship show sits canceled. Financially, reports suggest each twin has built a net worth in the range of a couple $1 million, driven mostly by their fashion brand, television paychecks, and various brand partnerships and fan platforms. That's not the picture of 2 women in total collapse. It's the picture of 2 women who, whatever else has gone wrong, have figured out how to keep their business running even while their personal lives played out as one long, very public struggle. Looking back at everything the Silva twins have been through, it's hard to describe their story as a simple downfall. It's more complicated than that. These are 2 women who wanted love, fame, and a certain kind of beauty all at the same time, and who paid a very public price trying to hold onto all 3 at once. Faces changed. Marriages wobbled. A show that gave them everything got quietly canceled. And through it all, they kept showing up, kept posting, kept building, and kept reaching for something that always seemed to be just out of reach. Whether you see that as tragic or as a genuine kind of resilience probably depends on which parts of their story stuck with you the most. But one thing is clear, love them or not, the Silva twins are impossible to forget. If you enjoyed this breakdown of the Silva twins' journey, let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this one. What happens when 2 women spend nearly a decade chasing love, fame, and beauty on national television, only to watch all 3 slip through their fingers at the same time? This is the story of Darcey and Stacey Silva, the identical twins from Connecticut who became 2 of the most talked about and most criticized personalities in the entire 90-day Fiancé universe. They were bold, emotional, glamorous, and always in the middle of some kind of controversy. But behind the designer outfits and the perfectly matched outfits was a much messier reality. broken engagements, a marriage that almost destroyed their relationship as sisters, a wave of public backlash over their appearance, and a show that eventually disappeared without warning. This is their story, from the beginning to where they stand right now. Long before reality television ever noticed them, Darcey and Stacey were already trying to build a life together. Growing up in Connecticut, the twins were close in a way that went beyond the usual sibling bond, and that closeness only deepened after their family suffered a devastating loss. Their brother Michael passed away from cancer in the late 1990s, and that grief became a turning point for both women. Instead of letting the loss pull them apart, they used it as motivation to build something meaningful together. In 2010, they launched a clothing brand called House of 11, named in tribute to their brother, and poured themselves into growing it from the ground up. Their ambitions didn't stop at fashion. The sisters tried more than once to break into television before they ever found real success. They filmed a pilot for a docu-series about their lives as twins, hoping networks would bite, but it never made it to air. They started their own production company and even helped produce an independent film with their father. None of these early efforts made them famous, but they refused to give up on the idea that their story belonged on screen. That persistence eventually paid off in a way none of them could have predicted. Everything changed in 2017 when Darcey joined the cast of 90 Day Fiancé, Before the 90 Days, with Stacey appearing alongside her in a supporting role. Darcey's storyline centered on her relationship with a Dutch boyfriend, and from the very first episodes, viewers could see the emotional intensity that would come to define her time on the franchise. The relationship played out with visible ups and downs, and it ended in a very public and very awkward breakup that instantly became one of the most talked about moments the show had produced up to that point. Rather than step back after that heartbreak, Darcey returned for more seasons, this time pursuing a relationship with a British businessman. That storyline also ended painfully, with reports of infidelity and a breakup that left Darcey feeling humiliated all over again. What made the situation even harder was that her exes appeared to align against her afterward, publicly suggesting that she was the common thread in each failed relationship. For a woman who had already opened up so much of her personal life to millions of strangers, hearing her former partners criticize her publicly added a whole new layer of pain to an already difficult chapter. Through all of this romantic turmoil, House of 11 kept growing. Major celebrities were spotted wearing the brand, and it gave the sisters something stable to hold onto even as their love lives fell apart on camera. Reports at the time suggested Darcey was earning a modest amount for each season of the show, which meant the fashion brand was doing far more heavy lifting financially than most fans realized. While viewers were focused on her heartbreak, the twins were quietly building a business that would end up outlasting every relationship either of them had on television. By 2020, the audience's fascination with the Silva twins had grown so large that network executives decided to give them their own spin-off. The show followed their daily lives, their family dynamic, and their relationships back home in Connecticut, and it premiered to strong ratings almost immediately. Darcey's on and off relationship with a Bulgarian boyfriend and Stacey's long-term relationship with an Albanian partner gave the series plenty of material, and viewers tuned in every week to see what new chaos was unfolding. It was during the second season of the spin-off that the show took a turn few people expected. The twins decided to travel overseas for a series of cosmetic procedures they described as a complete transformation, undergoing several surgeries at once in an effort to refresh their appearance together.